Bloody hell, where did 2025 go? It feels like just yesterday I was making last year's version of this video. There's been so many wonderful games released this year. We've laughed, we've cried, we've been horrified, it's been a stunning year. So, as with last year, let's round out 2025 with 5 games that I've really enjoyed this year. And no, I'm not going to talk about Expedition 33. It's incredible, it's my game of the year, but every man and his dog has played it or talked about it. We know it's excellent. Same goes for Silksong. Just go and play those games, you don't need me to tell you how good they are. No, instead I'm going to talk about some games I enjoyed playing in 2025, whether they came out this year or not. Silent Hill 2 Remake was one of my favourite games I played this year, and it had the unintended side effect of making me think twice about my unmitigated hatred of Bloober Team's work. Later in the year they released Kronos, The New Dawn, and, well, frankly, I'm a convert. Kronos is a science fiction survival horror game where you play as the Traveller, a mysterious being who was woken up from suspended animation after the previous Traveller was killed in action. She's on a quest to extract the consciousnesses, that word, of people deemed important by the mysterious collective she works for. To do this, she has to travel through rifts in time in a post-apocalyptic Poland. A monstrous pandemic ravaged the city of New Dawn in the 1980s, one which transforms its victims into violent, mutated creatures. You'll spend your time in the game picking through the ruined city in search of temporal rifts that will allow the traveller to skip back in time to the peak of the pandemic and find the survivors she's looking for. Exploration is slow and deliberate, with environmental puzzles and secrets to be found almost around every corner. There's also cats. Yes, cats. Cats holding upgrades. I don't know why, don't ask, but I always appreciate some solid cat content in a game, especially when you can pet them. Despite the slow pace of the game, the combat can be utterly pulse-pounding. Because the Traveller moves so slowly, you need to be very deliberate with your positioning and very aware of your surroundings when you're surrounded by enemies. The creatures, known as orphans, are fast and hit hard, often from quite the distance. And to add to the pressure, the orphans can buff themselves by absorbing the corpses of previously defeated creatures, gaining enhanced strength and body armor in the process, forcing you to split your attention between the enemy you're currently fighting and dealing with the more powerful enemy you'll end up fighting if you don't deal with it. On top of that, Kronos doesn't have a difficulty setting. No, instead it operates much like Resident Evil 4, where there's a game director that dynamically alters enemy difficulty and resource drops depending on how well, or in my case poorly, you're playing. It doesn't quite manage it as well as Resi 4 did. There are definitely some sections where I could feel the AI director helping me with ammo and health drops, usually after dying in an encounter a few times in a row, but by and large it worked well and kept the pressure on me throughout. What Bloober Team have created is a tight, tense and occasionally scary third-person survival horror which mixes frantic combat, fascinating storytelling and puzzles. Kronos plays like the bastard child of Silent Hill, Dead Space and Alan Wake 2. This is absolutely what Callisto Protocol should have been. Added to that the beautiful graphics, stunning art design and the outrageously good analog synth soundtrack, Kronos has immediately become a modern classic in survival horror. It also has the rare honour of being one of the best performing Unreal 5 games I've played all year. Where there's been so many very public instances of Unreal 5 games arriving broken or in need of player mods to make them function properly, Kronos just worked out of the gates, so it's got that going for it too. You should all go out and play Kronos The New Dawn. It's been criminally overlooked for awards and hype. Obsidian released 2 big RPGs this year. The Outer Worlds 2 released in a crowded October and appears to have fallen by the wayside for a lot of players. But at the start of the year they dropped a new take on the Pillars of Eternity franchise, Avowed. Set in a region of Aora called the Living Lands, Avowed has you taking on the role of an envoy from the Adia Empire who has arrived in the wild, untamed Living Lands to investigate the Dream Scourge, a plague that is wreaking untold magical havoc across the land. Weird that I played 2 games this year that feature a plague as their central narrative conceit. It's almost like we're all processing some kind of trauma from the turn of the decade. Anyway, unlike the Pillars of Eternity games, Avowed is played from a first or third person perspective. It's not an isometric RPG like its forebears. You'll explore large open world regions as you work through an open-ended story that reacts to your actions and decisions in quite significant ways. As with all of Obsidian's output, the writing is top notch. From the broader lore text all the way down to individual dialogue, it's all stunning. On your quest to find the source of the Dream Scourge, you will encounter political intrigue, attempts on your life, people trying to live their lives without Imperial interference, and the risk of an invasion from power-hungry Imperial Inquisitors. With the change in perspective comes a change in combat styles. Like the previous games in the franchise, you can cast spells, use martial weapons and guns in any combination that suits you. Your playstyle can truly become your own. Spells are visually impressive and satisfying to cast, with higher level variants becoming stunning explosions of magic and particle effects. Avowed is a beautiful game to behold. The art design is bright and colourful, with some beautiful vistas for you to see as you explore the living lands. The characters you'll meet on your quest and who will join your party are all unique, well written and beautifully fleshed out. And that's not to mention some wonderful voice acting performances and some genuinely hilarious interactions between your party members. There'll always be a special place in my heart for the mildly insane, fast-talking Yatsley. God, I love her. I fell in love with the Living Lands. I was already a huge fan of the Pillars games coming into Avowed, but I didn't expect to adore it as much as I did. The story's themes of environmentalism and the fight against colonisation drew me in, and the twisting narrative was engaging and enrapturing. I've felt for a while that high-budget fantasy games with this level of polish are a dying breed. They're so expensive to make, and very few end up having the cultural reach of, say, Skyrim, but Avowed is a game that any fan of fantasy role-playing games should play. I feel like as 2025 has gone on, Avowed has been largely forgotten by gamers. It wasn't nominated for many awards over the various end-of-year shows, and while it might not have necessarily won against the juggernaut that is Expedition 33, it's not a game that deserves to be forgotten about. I love a good roguelike. Slay the Spire is one of my favourite games of all time. Balatro was my 2024 obsession. Slots and Daggers combines the two into something that really does risk taking over my entire life. On the surface, it's a simple game. Based around a slot machine mechanic, you're exploring a dying world filled with monsters, battling your way through a world map. Each encounter has you spinning the wheels to perform attacks, defend, or heal yourself. As you progress through the encounters, you'll earn coins that will allow you to upgrade your abilities, open up more slot wheels, or gain new abilities. That simplicity gives way to a weirdly deep little game as you explore synergies between abilities, perfect your skill checks, and experiment with different weapons, buffs, or shields. For instance, one of the abilities you can pick up allows you to re-roll the wheel after a critical hit, so if you're good at landing the crits, you can turn your 3 attacks into a significantly longer combo of hits or shields. As you progress, enemies get stronger and weirder. They make use of different attacks. Magic, for instance, ignores your defense, hitting your health directly. Some enemies get progressively more powerful with each turn, forcing you to try and build your run in such a way that you kill creatures quickly. With each run, you'll earn chips, which you can spend in the mod shop, allowing you to invest in permanent upgrades to your power, defense, and odds. It's a quietly brilliant little game. While it's not long, you can beat the game in under 6 hours, it's a wonderful roguelike filled with creativity and a strong sense of self. There's a small story underpinning your journey through these dead lands, the monster art is creative, and I think it's just a brilliant game. Certainly one of the best small indie games I've played all year. I'm not normally a lover of narrative storybook games or visual novels, but Dispatch is something entirely different. The debut game from Ad Hoc Studios, Dispatch is a workplace comedy visual novel set around a dispatch centre for a private superhero agency. You play Robert Robertson, a former superhero who was working for the agency after a fall from grace, managing a team of former villains who are trying, and struggling, to make it as heroes. The first thing you'll notice is the quality of the production. Dispatch is more of a semi-interactive anime rather than a visual novel. You'll spend a lot of the time in each of the 8 episodes simply watching the action, occasionally picking dialogue options that will lead you down the branch and narrative. There is a dispatching minigame where you need to assign your various heroes to calls that come into the service, matching up the right hero with the right job. Some are as benign as saving missing pets, some involve drug busts or breaking up fighting rings. All the while your heroes will be bickering with each other, or generally complaining about having to do shitty work. What sells this game is the quality of the voice acting performances. And how could it not? The cast is absolutely stacked. Robert is played by Aaron Paul with a subtle, world-weary performance. The game was backed by Critical Role, so the core cast is all involved. Travis Willingham, Matt Mercer, Laura Bailey, Marisha Ray, Sam Riegel, and Liam O'Brien all play heroes and villains in this story, all to great effect. Laura Bailey's Invisical is genuinely one of my favourite characters of the year. I don't want to spoil why, but the performance is magical. The writing is top-notch too. Comedy is notoriously hard to pull off in video games, but Dispatch is genuinely really funny at times. There is fantastic banter between the characters, some utterly ludicrous social situations, and despite the dark undertones to the story at times, I laughed out loud multiple times across my playthrough. Dispatch isn't a long game, and I don't think there's much scope for replayability given the fairly restrictive nature of the anime styling, but don't let that put you off. This is a fantastic game and a really interesting take on the visual novel. Okay, this is one of the few games I played this year that didn't come out in 2025. At the start of the year, I had a notion to do a long video essay on modern remakes of classic survival horror games, but that got pushed to the wayside when I recorded my playthrough of Silent Hill 2 Remake and realised I wanted to dedicate an entire essay to that game. Go on, go check it out. But before I picked up Silent Hill 2, I recorded an entire playthrough of Resi 4. Now, I loved the original game when I played it way back on my PS2, so I knew I was going to like the remake. What I didn't expect was just how much I was going to love it. I tried to play it when it first released in March 2023 on my PS5, and I don't know why, but I didn't click with it at the time. I didn't dislike it, I just got to the first El Gigante fight and never went back to it. Picking it up on PC, I absolutely devoured it. I stormed through it in under a week. The reimagining of Leon's journey through the Spanish countryside in search of the missing Ashley Graham is a transcendent experience and, like the Resident Evil 2 remake, a standard bearer in how to remake a horror classic. Capcom took the core action-first experience of the original game and polished it to a mirror shine. Arena encounters are densely packed with reactive enemies that will easily swarm and overwhelm you, whilst also actively trying to avoid your shots. Boss fights are redesigned to either make them more fun or more difficult. Ramon Salazar continues to be an absolute bastard to fight in this game. There is more tension and more horror in this remake compared to the original 2. The reinterpreted Ashley solo section in the castle is genuinely terrifying, whereas in the original game it was just an annoying low point in an otherwise amazing game. Louise's story has been expanded and his death is much more impactful from a narrative perspective. The controls are tighter, Leon can move whilst firing and his melee animations have been given a spit shine. And the graphics, my god, the graphics! The RE engine has always been good at rendering beautiful visuals, but Resi 4 is simply stunning on PC. Look at Leon's hair! Look at the perfection in each strand! It's a technical masterpiece! However, the greatest upgrade to this remake is that Ashley is no longer a fucking liability. Her AI has been massively improved so she won't run in the way of Leon's gunshots anymore. She'll try to avoid enemies and position herself close to Leon, or, if you order her to, stay back and keep her distance. She'll even use cover to protect herself and avoid taking damage. And gone is that horrible, high-pitched "Leon, help!" voice line that would repeat constantly through the original game as she was attacked or carried away. Ashley has much more dialogue in the remake and communicates with the player more naturally. And most significantly with Ashley, her character is greatly expanded. In the original game, she's a helpless damsel in distress who, despite being a teenager, keeps mercilessly flirting with Leon. In the remake, she has her own agency. She has more nuanced emotional writing with an actual character arc that is resolved by the climax of the game. She also doesn't really flirt with Leon anymore, acting more like a teammate than a swooning caricature of a teenage girl. Capcom somehow took one of the most beloved games of all time and managed to make it better in almost every possible way, whilst retaining some of the camp ridiculousness of the original. I'm so glad I went back to Resident Evil 4 and managed to enjoy it properly. And that's it, that's my 2025 in a nutshell. I've had a great year making videos for you all, and I'm so happy to see you all enjoying them. I'm still working on the Wolfenstein video, which is rapidly becoming my white whale of a project, but I'm hoping to have that out as soon as possible in the new year. And once that's out, I'll be putting up a poll for my patrons to choose the next video to cover. Speaking of patrons, if you enjoy my work, please consider heading over to patreon.com/gadgetongaming, where you can support me from as little as $2 a month, giving you early access to videos and access to my supporter Discord. Alternatively, you can simply hit the subscribe button, like and leave a comment. Whatever you can do helps me out and I appreciate every interaction with every single one of you, even the ones who called me names on my video of The Last of Us 2. All that remains to be said is I hope you have a wonderful holiday season no matter what you celebrate, and a happy new year. I'll see you in 2026. For now though, good night.